there, this is actually a part of a larger video where I go in depth about all 3 God of War games in one single video. If you want to check that video out, there's a link in the description and there's probably a card on screen. I highly suggest you go and see that one. I talk about the other 2 games in the series as well as compare them all to each other. But with all that out of the way, let's jump into this video. God of War 3 is a masterpiece. When people think of God of War, they think of the ruthless gore, the incredible feats and moments, the iconic characters, and it's all because of this game. God of War 3 is God of War. The finale of the overarching story is firing on all cylinders. With a phenomenal story and some of the best and most deep gameplay the series has seen, this is the ultimate God of War experience.
Zeus! Your son has returned. I bring the destruction of Olympus!
In the first 30 minutes, you take down Poseidon. You kill the god of the seas by beating to a pulp and crushing his eyes with your thumbs. This should be enough to let you know what kind of game God of War 3 is going to be. God of War 3, in my opinion, is the only true mature God of War title. This is the most brutal the gore has been, but I'll get to that as I discuss where it's relative. God of War 3 just feels like it takes itself more seriously. It doesn't feel like a video game, but more like an experience, and I know that sounds really corny, but it's true. The tone of the game just feels more mature, and I'm a big fan. Before I jump into the story, I gotta address the biggest thing about God of War 3 for me, the graphics. Yes, I'm playing the PS4 remaster, but here's footage of the PS3 original. It looks amazing, especially when you compare it to God of War 2. And now here's the PS3 original compared to my emulated God of War 2 with a custom HD texture pack and a handful of settings to bump up the render resolution. It still looks better, and fuck it, let's throw in the PS4 remaster. This game is beautiful, and I think that's why I feel the way I do about the tone. It doesn't have to utilize an exaggerated art style to stand out. God of War 3 uses the power of the PS3 to generate beautiful, realistic imagery. It's this realistic look that makes the game feel a lot more serious compared to the other 2. Alright, let's finally discuss the game itself. God of War 3 picks up right where God of War 2 ends. Kratos and the Titans from the past are climbing up Mount Olympus to take down Zeus once and for all. After killing Poseidon, Kratos and Gaia make it to the top, but Zeus knocks them off with ease. As Gaia and Kratos struggle to hold on, she reveals to him that Kratos was manipulated by the Titans, and he was nothing more to them than a pawn to get them closer to Zeus. Kratos falls into the pits of the realm of Hades, and declares war against not only the gods of Olympus, but the Titans who betrayed him. Once Kratos falls into Hades, he lands in the river Styx, and this is how the game nerfs you. Compared to God of War 2, I prefer the previous game's way of nerfing Kratos. I didn't even realize it on my first playthrough that my health and magic were being reduced. It's just not as memorable as draining your godly powers into the Blade of Olympus. In Hades, Kratos meets the ghost of Athena, who has recognized Zeus's unjust fears against Kratos. She sides with the ghost of Sparta, acting as his guide across the final stretch of his journey for revenge. She gives him the Blades of Exile, an upgraded form of his Blades of Athena. Now this just may seem like a new coat of paint on the mostly unchanged cornerstone weapon of the series, but there's a lot more to this. The Blades of Exile are actually a really great introduction as to how magic works in God of War 3. Weapons and magic are now homogenized. Each weapon you obtain has a magic ability attached to it, rather than having them separately. I originally was a little unhappy with this change, but as the game progressed, I learned to like it. Especially when we see the introduction of tools, but more on that later. It kind of gives you more reason to use the alternate weapons. I mean, each weapon having unique moves is fine enough, but I think attaching the magics to the weapons gives another use to them. I think this was beneficial. I want to use the Claws of Hades Soul Summon ability, and I end up using the Claws of Hades as a melee weapon for a bit because of the convenience. There's still a magic meter, but magic items are now replaced with tools, which have their own meter. The tools in the game are Apollo's bow, which works like Typhon's bane, the head of Helios, and the boots of Hermes. Each tool has its own uses, even outside of combat. And if you're wondering about the Blade of Olympus, you can use it when you enable Spartan Rage. It has its own magic ability too. Also, everything from the last game, the Icarus Wings, the Golden Fleece, Poseidon's Trident, they're all available at the start of the game. Unfortunately, the Amulet of the Fates does not get utilized. I think giving everything to Kratos obviously makes sense, considering that the game takes place immediately after God of War 2. And going right from one game to the next, it's fine, but honestly, I feel like this is a lot to throw at the player if this is their first God of War title. If there's anyone who's played God of War 3 first before the other games, let me know in the comments if you were overwhelmed with the amount of utilities you had access to at the start. I want to know what it's like to just be thrown all this stuff and told to have at it. As I mentioned earlier, God of War 3 is God of War at its peak. This is the game that people think of when they think of the series. When people think of the gore and the brutality of God of War, they're thinking of this game. When they think of the crazy feats Kratos has accomplished, it's this game. The amount of iconic moments in this game and how fucking awesome they are is through the roof. I mean, tearing off Helios' head for your own use, killing the massive Titan Kratos, and my personal favorite, the Hercules fight. The Hercules fight is nothing special gameplay-wise, but it feels amazing. It feels like two gladiators duking it out. It feels like a UFC match, and the cutscene before it is just, I don't know, man, I love it.
Hello, brother. This is not between us, Hercules.
Isn't it? You were always Zeus's favorite.
Think about it, brother. While I was stuck cleaning the Augean stables, he chose you to destroy Ares. While you were being crowned the God of War, I was sent to find an apple. They called them labors. Ha! Perhaps he did allow me to kill the Nemean lion, but he made your name known amongst the people. A fierce warrior, a killer made hero, a man made a god. But this time, brother, this time I will destroy you. Call it my 13th and final labor. Soon I will become the God of War and claim the throne for myself.
God of War 3 is the final game in the original trilogy, and the finale of what you could call the young Kratos saga. And the ending of the game is, in my opinion, amazing. After Kratos finally kills Zeus, Athena comes to the conclusion that when the evils of the world were locked inside Pandora's box, she placed the power of hope within the box as a sort of backup plan. Turns out, this is what Kratos used to defeat Ares, and all the other evils were released into the world alongside it. These evils affected Zeus, who got paranoid that Kratos would attempt to overthrow him, as he tried to do with his father Kronos. So Zeus stepped in to prevent his own downfall, which would end up causing his own downfall. This explains why Zeus went after Kratos to begin with. Athena then tries to manipulate Kratos into giving up the power of hope to her, but instead of submitting to the gods, Kratos sacrifices himself to release hope to all of humanity. This is a beautiful arc for the character. Going from someone who's lost in their past, to someone who had a raging hatred for the gods, to someone who realizes the many mistakes of their life and releases the power of hope to humanity so that they may not fall into the same hell he had. God of War 3 is an amazing game by itself, but when coupled with the rest of the games in the series, it makes it even better. It's the most complete God of War game in the trilogy, even with its small hiccups. God of War 3 is God of War. And hey, if you like this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, feel free to leave a comment as I try to reply to as many as I can. If you want to check out more videos, you can do so here, as well as check out RatedEm Live, which is where I upload the best moments from all of my live streams. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.